Sir, could you be my daddy, just for one day? When a fearless 5-year-old girl makes a bold request to a billionaire stranger on a park bench, she has no idea she's about to rewrite 3 lives forever. What starts as a pretend role for a school play becomes a journey into unexpected love, second chances, and a makeshift family that might just be the realest thing any of them have ever known. Hello family, welcome to True Life Stories. Please subscribe and leave a like for us, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The clouds over Manhattan sat low and heavy that afternoon, like they were thinking about raining, but hadn't made up their minds. The wind tugged at coats and carried the scent of roasted peanuts and concrete. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, then faded into the hum of the city. Tarek Jackson sat alone on a weathered bench in a small park just off East 47th. A strange place for a billionaire to be. No security, no assistant, no phone in his hand. Just him and the sound of leaves scraping across pavement. He wore a dark overcoat and aviator sunglasses despite the lack of sun. His tailored slacks didn't belong to this bench or this park. But something about today had pushed him away from glass towers and sleek offices. He needed out. His board had delivered news he should have cared about. A pending acquisition, a scandal involving a rival firm, something about algorithms. But Tarek had barely heard them. His mind had been adrift, blank in a way that felt unfamiliar and uncomfortable. He hadn't felt much of anything in months. That's when she arrived. Small, steady-footed, determined. She stepped out from behind the hedge with the confidence of a child who had decided something and wasn't looking back. Her jacket was too thin for the weather, a pink hoodie with glitter unicorns and one sleeve pushed halfway up. Her sneakers lit up at the soles every time she stepped. She had pigtails, slightly lopsided, and a Dora the Explorer backpack that hung too heavy on her shoulders. She stopped in front of him, no hesitation. Tarek blinked. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. He removed his sunglasses slightly. Are you lost? She squinted up at him. Are you nice? He wasn't sure how to answer that. No one had asked him that in years. Maybe ever. I guess it depends on the day, he said carefully. Today's a good day to be nice, she said, then stepped closer, her small hands balled into fists at her sides. Sir, could you be my daddy just for one day? Tarek's mouth opened slightly. No words came out. I need one, she added, for school. For school? We're having a performance. Everyone's daddy comes. They cheer and take videos and hug you after. My teacher says it's okay if you don't have one, but it's not really okay, 'cause you're the only one sitting alone. Tarek blinked hard. This child had just delivered an emotional gut punch with the clarity of someone who had spent too much time not being chosen. Where's your mom? He asked, scanning the park now. Does she know you're here? She's at work, she said, pointing vaguely toward a small diner across the street. She told me to stay inside and color, but I saw you through the window. You looked like you were waiting for someone. And you thought maybe it was you? She nodded. Tarek exhaled slowly, hands still folded in his lap. You don't even know my name. I'm Maria, she said, like that settled everything. Well, Maria, he said slowly, being someone's dad, even for a day, is kind of a big thing. She considered this. You just have to sit in the audience, she said, and clap really loud when I'm done. You don't have to know how to braid hair or anything. His lips twitched. It was dangerously close to a smile. And if I say yes? I give you a sticker after the show, she said. And a hug. If you want. Tarek looked at her again, really looked. This tiny, fearless girl who had wandered out of a diner to offer him the one role he had never considered. Dad. He had closed billion-dollar deals. He had given speeches in front of world leaders. He had been on the cover of Forbes 4 times. But no one had ever asked him to clap loud just for them. His voice was soft. Okay. She stared at him, not quite believing it. You'll do it? He nodded. Just for one day. She squealed, a delighted, high-pitched sound that startled a few pigeons nearby. and threw her arms around his legs before he could react. He stiffened at first, unfamiliar with the hug of a child, but then something loosened inside him. He let her hold him for a few seconds before gently patting her back. Across the street, the diner door banged open. "Maria!" A woman's voice cried out, sharp, frantic, and full of maternal panic. Maria turned, unfazed. "That's my mommy." Tarek stood as the woman ran across the street. She had flour on her apron, strands of hair sticking to her forehead, and fire in her eyes. She wasn't dressed like someone who had time to flirt with rich strangers. But even flushed with worry, she was stunning. Maria waved. "Mommy," he said yes. The woman slowed, stopping a foot away from Tarek. Her eyes went from Maria to him and back again. "Excuse me," she said. "What did you say yes to?" Maria grabbed her hand. "He's going to be my pretend daddy for the performance. I asked him and he said yes." The woman looked like she wanted the ground to open up. "I'm so sorry," she said, reaching for her daughter. She has this wild imagination, and I only left her for a second." Tarek lifted a hand. "She didn't imagine it." She asked. I agreed. The woman blinked. "You what?" "I'm Tarek," he said calmly. "And apparently, I'll be attending a school performance soon." Maria beamed and squeezed his hand before letting her mother pull her gently away. The woman's eyes narrowed, searching his face. And in that moment, between disbelief and gratitude, panic and wonder, Kiera Valdez met the man who would upend the quiet world she'd spent 5 years carefully building for her daughter. Kiera Valdez couldn't feel her legs. Her heart had yet to leave her throat since she'd bolted out of the diner and spotted her 5-year-old daughter chatting with a stranger in the park. A man. Not just any man. A man in a suit too expensive for this zip code, with the sort of composed posture that screamed either Wall Street or Secret Service. She grabbed Maria by the shoulders the second she reached her, crouching to meet her eyes. "Baby, you can't run out like that." "I didn't run. I walked," Maria corrected. "And he wasn't a stranger, he's Tarek." He said yes. Kiera stood, breathless, eyes flicking to the man standing beside them. Tall, sharp-jawed, calm in a way that unnerved her. He extended a hand. "Tarek Jackson." Kiera ignored the hand for a second too long before shaking it. "Kiera Valdez. I'm her mother, her very panicked mother." His hand was warm, but his grip was precise. Measured. No rings. No calluses. No rough edges. This man didn't lift chairs or carry groceries. But he didn't seem bothered by the sidewalk or Maria's unapologetic declarations either. "She said you agreed to go to her school performance." "She asked," he replied evenly, "and made a compelling argument." Kiera blinked. "So you agreed to pretend to be her father?" Tarek glanced down at Maria, whose arm was now wrapped tightly around his. "I think she sees it more as a temporary contract." Kiera didn't know whether to laugh or scream. "Look," she said, gently untangling her daughter's fingers, "I'm sorry. I don't know what she said to you, but she doesn't have a father in the picture, and we've been doing fine on our own." "She said that too," he replied. "But she still asked." Kiera sighed. "I'll talk to her teacher. I'll explain." "You don't have to." "I don't have to," Tarek interrupted. "But I can. And I will. If you'll let me." His tone wasn't pushy. It was matter of fact, like offering to hold a door. Only instead of a door, it was a gaping hole in a little girl's heart. "Why?" Kiera asked softly, genuinely. "Why would you do this?" Tarek paused, his eyes never leaving hers. "Because she asked me with no agenda. No flattery. No fear. Just a need." Kiera studied him. Everything about him felt out of place here. His shoes didn't have a single scuff. His watch cost more than her car. His coat had stitching too fine for someone who took casual park walks. But he didn't feel dangerous. He felt solid. Still, like the only unmoving piece in a world spinning too fast. "She's 5, Kiera said finally. "She's stubborn. She's smart. She's already learned how to put on a brave face even when something hurts." Tarek looked down again at Maria, who had begun humming to herself, watching pigeons like they were dancers in her own little parade. She's also bold, he said. I like that. Kiera felt her defenses soften just an inch. She's everything I have, she said. I don't let people into her life. Especially not men. And especially not strange men in $3,000 coats. It was a gift, Tarek said with a barely there smirk. Kiera arched an eyebrow. So was my daughter's trust. You think you can handle it? I manage billion-dollar companies, he replied coolly. But I'm under no illusion this is the same thing. That answer, more than anything else, made her pause. Back inside the diner, Kiera sat Maria back at her coloring booth and handed her a cup of warm apple juice. No more sneaking out, baby. I didn't sneak, Maria said innocently. I just went to look for something I didn't have. Kiera leaned down, brushing her daughter's bangs aside. Some things you don't have are okay. But this one made my heart feel empty, Maria whispered, quiet enough that it punched through Kiera's chest like a fist. Kiera turned and found Tarek still standing at the entrance, hands in his pockets, as if waiting for her to make a decision. She didn't invite him to sit. He sat anyway. In the back booth by the window, she slid a coffee across the table, black bitter, brewed hours ago. Tarek didn't blink. Just took a sip and nodded. Terrible, he said. Best in the city, Kiera replied. He studied her, and she hated how much it made her self-conscious. She still had a smudge of syrup on her apron. Her eyeliner had long since faded. Her hands were dry from too much soap and too few breaks. She probably looked exactly like what she was, exhausted. So, she asked carefully, what do you do when you're not being recruited by 5-year-olds? I run a company. A few, technically. Let me guess. CEO. Among other things. You don't look like you have time for school plays. He shrugged. I didn't. There was something unspoken between the words. Something she couldn't read just yet. You don't seem like the type who'd say yes to a stranger's kid, she said. He looked toward Maria, who was now creating what appeared to be a crayon family of stick figures. 2 adults and 1 little girl in a tutu. Neither do I, he said. But here I am. Kiera folded her arms across her chest. And what happens after this one day? Tarek looked back at her. His voice was quiet. I don't know. I don't make promises I can't keep. But I also don't walk away from things that matter. Her walls shot back up. Maria isn't an experience. She isn't a side project. I'm aware, he said. I'm here because she asked. I'm staying because I want to. Kiera exhaled long and slow. This wasn't the plan. She didn't have time for unexpected variables. And yet, the way Maria had looked when he said yes, that spark of being seen, being chosen, Kiera hadn't seen that in her daughter in years. Maybe ever. She took a deep breath. Fine, she said. You want to clap at her performance? You show up for rehearsal. After your board meetings and whatever mergers you're cooking up. He smiled faintly. Deal. Kiera reached out and gripped his wrist suddenly, surprising even herself. But one mistake, she warned. One break in that little girl's heart, and I'll end you. I don't care how much money's in your bank account. Tarek met her eyes. No flinch. No amusement. Understood. And for the first time, Kiera realized this might not just be dangerous. It might be real. The elementary school gym smelled like old wood, disinfectant, and the faint scent of peanut butter from someone's leftover lunch in a backpack nearby. Folding chairs squeaked across the floor as parents and volunteers shuffled about. Kids chased each other between papier-mâché props. Chaos reigned, but to the 5-year-olds it was magic. Kiera stood by the far wall, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold with the cautious stance of a woman who had learned not to trust things that felt too good. Tarek Jackson, Billionaire CEO, stood center stage, holding cue cards in one hand and looking, for the first time in his adult life, completely out of his element. I say what again? He asked. Maria, who stood on a painted cardboard star wearing sparkly sneakers and a purple tutu, huffed. You say, this is my daughter, Maria. She's the most amazing singer in the galaxy, and I'm proud to be her daddy, even just for today. Tarek raised an eyebrow. That's a lot of pressure. You promised, Maria said, hands on hips. We practiced. He knelt beside her, adjusting her paper tiara, and softened his voice. I'm just trying to get it right. Kiara watched that moment from the side, feeling something flutter painfully in her chest. She didn't want to name it. Tarek rose and turned toward the line of folding chairs where a teacher holding a clipboard gave him a thumbs up. Ready? She asked. We're just doing a run-through, so no pressure. Just the opening line. Maria stood proudly center stage. Tarek stepped forward. There was a moment of silence before he glanced at his cue card, then crumpled it. His voice carried across the gym, calm and confident. This is Maria. She's the brightest star I've ever met, and if you knew what it took for her to stand here today, you'd understand why I'm honored, truly honored, to be called her dad, even just for one day. The gym went silent. Even the teacher looked up from her clipboard. Maria glowed. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Kiara, from the wall, felt her chest twist. Not just from pride, but from fear. Because that didn't sound like pretend. That sounded like something real. After rehearsal, Tarek offered Maria his hand as they walked out of the school. She took it without hesitation. Kiara trailed behind, unsure of her place in this new formation. She wasn't used to sharing. Her life had been Maria. Just Maria. Always Maria. But now there was this space opening up. And she didn't know what to do with it. Outside, the wind had picked up. Tarek held the school's side gate open as they stepped onto the sidewalk. She's fearless, he said. She's 5, Kiara replied. He glanced at her. You taught her to be fearless. Kiara scoffed softly. No, I taught her to survive. She turned that into something bigger. They walked in silence for a few blocks until Tarek broke it. Would you both like to grab something to eat? Kiara hesitated. We don't exactly do 5-star. I was thinking pizza, he said. She tilted her head. You eat pizza? I'm capable of normal human behavior, he deadpanned. Maria squealed. Can we get the kind with the stuffed crust? And the sprinkled cheese? And root beer. Root beer, Tarek said with mock gravity. That's a serious commitment. Kiara's guard twitched but didn't rise. Not this time. They ended up at Tony's Slice and Soda, a corner joint with torn booths, faded menus taped to the wall, and napkin holders that jammed every third pull. Tarek looked hilariously out of place in his tailored coat, but he didn't seem to care. They ordered 2 pepperoni pizzas, 1 personal cheese for Maria, and a plate of garlic knots. Tarek even let Maria convince him to order root beer. The booth was tight. Tarek sat beside Maria. Kiara sat across from them. It was cramped, intimate, familiar. Maria pulled out a crayon and a napkin. This is me, she said, scribbling a stick figure with a tiara. This is Mommy, she added, another stick figure with curly hair and a tray of food. Then she looked up at Tarek. I don't know what to draw for you yet, she said. He blinked. That's fair. She considered, then drew a tall stick figure with glasses, a tie, and a crown. I'll figure it out later. Kiara watched as Tarek reached for a crayon and began adding stars around Maria's figure. I didn't expect this, she said quietly. He looked up. This you. Showing up. Most men don't stick around past the explanation. I don't run from complicated things, he said. I build my life around fixing them. Kiara stirred her soda with a straw. We're not broken. I didn't say you were. Her gaze sharpened. And you're not here out of pity? Tarek leaned forward. Kiara, the last time someone asked me for something that wasn't about money or power or fixing some crisis. I was in college. Your daughter saw me on a bench and asked me to clap for her. She doesn't even know who you are, Kiara said. I think that's why I said yes. Later, when the pizza boxes were empty and Maria had fallen asleep with her head on Tarek's lap in the booth, Kiara turned to him and whispered, She's going to remember this forever. I hope so, he said. You know what that means, right? I do. She'll look for you. She'll wonder. She'll ask. I'll be there, he said quietly, if you'll let me. Kiara looked at him, into him, and for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel like a woman holding the world together alone. She felt like someone who might finally be allowed to fall into something steady. Friday arrived too soon. The city woke that morning to a rare wash of sunlight breaking through early spring clouds. The sidewalks glistened with dew. Flowers on the school lawn opened wide, unbothered by the buzzing traffic or yawning children in backpacks trudging toward the gymnasium. Inside, chaos churned in small, excitable waves. Costumes were being tugged over heads. Parents checked camera batteries and spilled coffee on permission slips. Glitter stuck to everything. A teacher with a clipboard shouted instructions like a cruise director, trying to keep the ship from crashing into itself. In a corner hallway, Maria stood perfectly still, except for her tapping foot. Her tutu was freshly fluffed. Her hair was braided with lavender ribbons. She wore tiny silver sneakers that lit up every time she shifted her weight. Her arms were crossed, eyes trained on the double doors that led to the front entrance. Kiara stood behind her, dressed in a soft blue blouse, jeans, and nerves. She held Maria's glitter-covered cue cards, her knuckles white around the edges. "You know, sweetheart," Kiara murmured, kneeling beside her, "if he doesn't come, it doesn't mean he didn't care." Maria didn't even turn. "He said he would," she replied. Kiara hesitated. "Sometimes things happen. He's probably—" The doors swung open. And there he was. Tarek Jackson. No suit. No tie. No bodyguard. He wore dark jeans, a soft charcoal sweater, and sneakers that looked just a little too new, like he'd bought them just for this. In one hand, he carried a small bouquet of sunflowers and wild daisies. In the other, a thermos of coffee, which he handed to Kiara with a half-smile. "Thought you might need this," he said. She took it, blinking, flustered and grateful. "You came. You doubted." Kiara opened her mouth, but Maria beat her to it. "I told you," she squealed, launching toward him. Tarek crouched and caught her as she wrapped her arms around his neck. "You didn't think I'd miss the big debut, did you?" She leaned back. "Did you bring the line?" He nodded solemnly. "Memorized it. You better not mess up," she teased. "I wouldn't dream of it." Inside the gymnasium, the lights dimmed. Rows of chairs filled quickly with parents and grandparents. Teachers herded children backstage, shushing and straightening crowns and robot helmets. Tarek sat in the third row, dead center, Kiara beside him, clutching her thermos and trying not to fidget. "She's been talking about this all week," she whispered. "So have I," Tarek said. A few parents glanced at him, some recognizing him, most not. One mother leaned over and whispered, "You're Maria's dad?" Tarek turned to her, voice calm, sure. "Today I am." Kiara heard it. It felt like someone had reached inside her and rung a bell she didn't know she carried. When Maria's group came on stage, the gym quieted. Children fidgeted under the lights. A cardboard spaceship hung above them, painted silver and blue. A backdrop of stars painted by second graders shimmered behind them. The teacher stepped up to the microphone. "Our next student," she said with a smile, "would like to be introduced by a special guest." Tarek stood slowly. His hands didn't shake. His breath was even. He walked to the mic and knelt beside it so he could speak at Maria's height. "This is Maria," he said clearly. "She's the brightest, kindest, bravest little girl I've ever met. She believes in magic and moons and music, and now I do too." Maria beamed. Tarek looked at her. "She asked me to clap really loud today, so I hope everyone brought their hands." The room laughed. He stood, walked back, sat beside Kiara, and then the music began. Maria sang with her whole body, arms waving, feet moving, voice a little off-key and full of joy. When she finished, she scanned the crowd until her eyes found him. Tarek was already clapping, not politely, thunderously. Maria's face lit up like the stage lights had finally reached her soul. After the performance, the chaos continued. Children swarming parents, teachers chasing down props, cookies being passed around on plastic plates. Kiara found Maria backstage, spinning in circles with a paper star in her hand. "She loved it," Maria said, her voice breathless. "Did you see him? He clapped louder than anyone." "I saw, baby," Kiara said. "I want to do it again tomorrow," Maria declared. Tarek appeared beside them, The sunflower bouquet slightly crumpled from being held too tight. "For the record," he said to Kiera, she nailed it. Kiera looked up at him. Her voice was quiet. "You really meant everything you said?" He didn't blink. Every word. Maria jumped in. "Mommy, can we go get ice cream to celebrate? Like real families do." Kiera hesitated. Tarek looked at her. "We've already broken the pretend barrier. Might as well get sprinkles." Kiera exhaled. "Okay, ice cream." Maria squealed again and ran ahead toward the exit, tiara askew, backpack bouncing. Kiera turned to Tarek, her tone lower, more guarded now that they were alone. "You know this isn't a game to her, right? You just cemented something in her heart." Tarek nodded. "I know. And to me." He took a step closer. "I don't make promises lightly," he said. "But I want to be part of her life, Kiera. And yours, if you'll let me." Kiera searched his face. For hesitation. For ego. For dishonesty. She found none. Just sincerity, wrapped in stillness. She didn't smile. Not yet. But she said, "We'll see." And for Tarek Jackson, that was more than enough to keep showing up. The weather had shifted by the time they left the school. The spring sky had turned gold around the edges, softening like butter melting across the tops of the buildings. The city, for once, didn't feel like it was rushing toward anything. Maria skipped ahead on the sidewalk, her glittery sneakers flashing with every step, sunflower bouquet in hand, singing pieces of her school performance with theatrical flair. Tarek walked beside Kiera, keeping pace, his hands in his pockets. He wasn't speaking, but his eyes flicked to Maria every few seconds, like he needed to confirm she was real. "She's still buzzing," Kiera said, watching her daughter skip. "She earned it." They reached the corner. Maria spun around dramatically and announced, "I declare today Ice Cream Day." Kiera laughed softly. "You just performed, baby. You're not royalty." "Pretty sure that's exactly what royalty does," Tarek murmured, almost to himself. Maria planted her fists on her hips. "Do you even know what flavor princesses eat?" "I do not." "Bubblegum. With marshmallows. And chocolate flakes. And gummy worms." Kiera scrunched her nose. "That's not ice cream. That's a sugar bomb waiting to detonate." "I'm okay with that," Tarek said. "I'm wearing black. It hides chaos." Maria pointed ahead. "There. That place. They have rainbow cones." Kiera squinted. "It's a diner, not a creamery. But it has booths." Maria pleaded. "Can we sit inside? Please. Please. Just like we're real." She stopped herself. The word hovered in the air. Tarek stepped in. "Sure. Diner ice cream sounds perfect." Kiera paused. Her heart twitched. "All right," she said. "One cone. That's it." The diner smelled like fries and nostalgia. Vinyl booths. A jukebox in the corner with songs no one had played since the 90s. A waitress with a ponytail and a pen tucked behind one ear led them to a booth by the window. Tarek slid in first, Maria climbed in beside him, and Kiera hesitated just a beat before sitting across from them. The waitress approached with 3 laminated menus. "What can I get you?" "Chocolate milkshake," Maria said, confident. "With rainbow sprinkles and extra whipped cream." Tarek raised an eyebrow. "I'll have what the lady's having." Kiera chuckled. "Coffee. Black." When the waitress walked away, Maria began unwrapping her school bouquet and carefully placing the flowers in a water cup. Tarek watched her, amused. "So, that performance. You think you'll go on tour?" Maria shook her head solemnly. "I'm retiring after this." "That was fast. I'm going to be a paleontologist now. You know, like the dinosaur people." "Ah," Tarek nodded. "Career change. Bold." Kiera watched them like an outsider looking through glass. Maria, pressed up against a man who had only been in their lives for a few days, acting like she'd known him forever. And Tarek, not performing, not awkward, just there. Like he belonged. "You're good with her," Kiera said suddenly. Tarek looked up. "She makes it easy. She doesn't usually let people in this fast. Then maybe she sees something in me that I don't yet." Kiera's mouth opened, then closed. The milkshakes arrived, towering with whipped cream and glittery sugar. Tarek and Maria immediately dove in like co-conspirators. Kiara sipped her coffee and watched them. She wasn't used to silence feeling this safe. Half an hour passed. Maria curled up in the booth seat beside Tarek, her head resting against his side, a smudge of whipped cream still on her cheek. "She's out," he said quietly. Kiara nodded. "It's past her sugar crash window." Tarek glanced down at the child curled against him. "She trusts fast." "She doesn't," Kiara said. "Not really. She just knows. It's like her radar is better than mine." He looked at her, long and steady. "You trust slow." Kiara met his gaze. "I have a reason to." Tarek sat back, thoughtful. "Can I ask what happened?" She was 2 when her dad left. Said he was going to a job interview. Never came back. I got a text a month later from a number I didn't recognize. He said he wasn't ready to be a parent. Tarek's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. Kiara kept her voice level. Maria stopped asking about him around age 4. I never badmouthed him. I just told her the truth. That sometimes people leave, and it's not because of you. Tarek stared at the table. That's a hard thing to carry. Kiara nodded. It is. The silence was heavier now. When Tarek finally spoke, his voice was low. I didn't grow up with much. No dad. My mom worked 3 jobs. I didn't know how to be a child, really. I built things. I got good at control. At power. But none of it filled anything. Kiara looked at him, surprised by his openness. I've spent years with walls up so high I forgot what it felt like to let anything in. But then Maria walked up to me like I was supposed to be hers. No caution. No hesitation. Just honesty. Kiara didn't respond right away. Finally, she asked, "And what about now?" He looked at her directly. "I'm not sure if I came here for her," he said. "Or if I stayed because of you." Kiara's chest tightened. "I don't do casual," she said. "I didn't think you did. I don't have the luxury of guessing someone's intentions." "You shouldn't have to," he said. "Let me make mine clear." She raised an eyebrow. "I don't know what this is yet," he said. "But it's not pretend anymore. Not for me." Kiara looked at him, then at her daughter, sleeping peacefully beside him. She reached across the table, fingers brushing the edge of his hand. "Me either." And for a moment, everything felt still. Like the city had stopped spinning. Like maybe, just maybe, the man who was never supposed to sit in that booth had found the one place he didn't want to leave. The story broke on a Tuesday. It started as a whisper on social media. A blurry photo posted by a food blogger who had wandered into Tony's Slice and Soda late Friday night. At first, it was nothing, just another image of a man in a booth. But someone zoomed in, sharpened it, and suddenly the world recognized Tarek Jackson, billionaire CEO of Stratus Tech, sitting beside a small child, holding a pink crayon. By Wednesday morning, it was everywhere. Tarek Jackson's mystery girl, and the little girl who calls him daddy? Who is the waitress capturing the billionaire's heart? From boardroom to booster seat, Jackson's unlikely new life? Kiara saw it first while waiting in the school pickup line. The article popped up as a suggested headline on her phone. Her stomach dropped. She read it in one long breath. Her full name wasn't mentioned, but her face was there. So was Maria's. Pixelated but unmistakable. By the time she reached the front of the line, her hands were shaking so badly she fumbled the door handle. Maria climbed in, chattering about art class, unaware of the world changing around her. That night, Kiara sat on the couch with her knees tucked to her chest, her phone lighting up with messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Is this real? Kiara, are you dating him? Girl, why didn't you tell me you caught a billionaire? She turned her phone off and tossed it across the couch. Tarek called her before she could call him. I saw it, he said. Of course you did, Kiara replied, biting the inside of her cheek. Your world runs on headlines. It's garbage. I'll have my legal team shut it down. Can they shut down every person who suddenly thinks I'm gold-digging trash? Tarek went quiet. Kiara's tone softened. I know this isn't your fault. But this is why I didn't want her to get attached. Why I didn't want me to get attached. She didn't ask for a headline, he said. She asked for someone to clap for her. Kiara squeezed her eyes shut. And now the whole damn world is clapping. I'll fix this. No, you won't, she said. Because the problem isn't the press, Tarek. It's that I'm not part of your world, and your world doesn't leave people like me alone. There was silence again. Then he said quietly, I didn't think it would happen this fast. I did, she said. 2 days passed. They didn't speak. Not because they were angry, but because neither of them knew what came next. Kiara worked double shifts. She kept her head down. Maria, thankfully, hadn't seen the article, but she felt the tension. Is Tarek still coming on Saturday? She asked one morning over cereal. Kiara hesitated. We'll see, baby. Maria frowned. Did he get too busy? Kiara didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because too busy felt easier than too complicated. Friday night, 8:17 p.m. A knock at the door. Kiara froze. Maria was already halfway to the handle, squealing. It's him. I knew it. Tarek stood in the hallway, holding a paper bag from her favorite Mexican takeout. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, and his eyes, normally so confident, looked unsure for the first time. I come in peace, he said. Kiara stepped aside. He walked in. The air was thick. Maria immediately pulled him to the floor, dragging out markers and asking him to draw dinosaurs. Tarek obliged quietly, while Kiara watched from the kitchen. When Maria finally fell asleep on the couch, surrounded by doodles and tortilla chips, Tarek stood and walked to her. I don't want to be a scandal in her life, she said softly. You're not. She's 5. She doesn't understand what happens when people start talking. I do. Kiara crossed her arms. So tell me, what happens next? Tarek took a breath. I walk away, and she thinks people only stay for a day. Or I stay, and she learns that not everything that gets messy has to be abandoned. Kiara blinked. You're good with words, she said. I'm better with action. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a slim envelope. This was a press statement. Crafted by PR, said we're friends. Said I'm mentoring your daughter in a school program. Lies basically. Kiara's stomach twisted. He ripped it in half. Because I'm not hiding you. Or her. She stepped closer. Do you know what you're saying? I'm saying I don't care if I lose investors over a 5-year-old girl with crayons who thinks I'm the best hugger on the planet. Kiara blinked back something hot behind her eyes. He went on. I'm saying you're not my side story. You're not a project or a footnote. You're the first thing that's felt real in years. And I'm terrified. But I want in. Kiara stood completely still. Then she said it quietly, honestly. So do I. And just like that, the space between them, so long filled with what-ifs and caution, finally closed. It had been a week since the press storm died down. No retractions. No headlines. Just silence. The noise faded, but something else settled in its place, presence. Tarek didn't just show up anymore. He stayed. Every morning, every weekend, every dinner where Maria demanded that ketchup be a primary food group. He sat beside them like he'd never been anywhere else. He stopped checking his phone at the table. His assistant, Brenner, had nearly passed out when Tarek canceled 3 international trips in one breath. Family reasons, he said without flinching. Reschedule it. What kind of family? Brenner had asked. Tarek's answer was simple. The real kind. One Saturday morning, Kiara woke to the smell of burnt toast and unearned confidence. She shuffled into the kitchen, still in her robe, and found Tarek in a gray t-shirt and flannel pants. Hair a mess, flipping something charred onto a plate with absolute commitment. I'm making French toast, he said, as though that explained the disaster zone around him. Kiara surveyed the kitchen. Flour on the counter, syrup on the cabinet handle, eggshells on the floor, and Maria at the table, grinning with powdered sugar on her nose. She told me I wasn't allowed to leave until I learned how to cook breakfast, Tarek added. Kiara blinked. You actually listened? Tarek glanced at Maria. When a 5-year-old threatens to revoke your cuddle privileges, you pay attention. Maria raised her plastic fork in triumph. That's right. I'm the boss. Kiara shook her head, trying not to smile. She's been trying to fire me for years. I've unionized, Maria declared. Tarek served Kiara a misshapen slice of French toast. Careful. It tastes like ambition and regret. Kiara took a bite and laughed. Honestly, not the worst I've had. He watched her like it mattered, like her approval had nothing to do with breakfast. That afternoon, they went to the park. No disguises. No pretending. Just the three of them. Maria ran ahead with a kite, shrieking as it caught wind. Tarek held the spool while she gave dramatic instructions. Kiara sat on the grass, arms propped on her knees, watching them with something more than affection. It wasn't until Maria went to use the restroom, racing off with a group of kids, that Kiara finally asked the question she hadn't voiced aloud until now. Have you thought about what she said? Tarek glanced at her. Which part? She asked you if she gets to keep you. Tarek nodded once. Slowly. I haven't stopped thinking about it. Kiara inhaled. She doesn't mean it casually. When Maria gives her heart, she gives it whole. There's no halfway. Neither is mine, he said. Not anymore. Kiara's eyes dropped to her hands. And what about your world? Your company? Your life before us? Tarek smiled, almost wistfully. I used to build billion-dollar systems, so I didn't have to feel small. So no one could leave me behind. But now, he looked toward where Maria was returning, arms full of dandelions, a trail of dirt behind her. I'd burn it all down if she asked me to. Kiara blinked, her heart caught between disbelief and recognition. Because she believed him. Not because he was dramatic, but because he was different now. Maria plopped down in his lap. I made you a bouquet, Daddy. The word landed with perfect weight. Tarek swallowed once before speaking. Yeah, he said softly. Did you just call me Daddy? Maria tilted her head. You don't like it? His voice cracked. No, I do. She grinned and handed him a cluster of flowers. Kiara watched as Tarek pressed them to his chest like they were sacred. You don't have to just be my pretend daddy now, Maria said. You can stay for always. He looked at Kiara. Kiara didn't speak. She just nodded. That night, he tucked Maria in for the first time. Read her a story, badly. Sang a lullaby, worse. But none of that mattered. Maria curled into her blanket and whispered, You're mine now. And Tarek, billionaire builder, man who once didn't know what love looked like, replied softly, I always was. The day of the wedding wasn't extravagant. It wasn't lavish. There was no helicopter entrance, no 10-tiered cake, no diamond-encrusted aisle lined with silk petals. It was a backyard. Kiara's backyard. The grass had been freshly cut. 2 rows of white folding chairs curved in a crescent around a handmade arch made from birch branches, wildflowers, and bits of ribbon that Maria had tied herself. The air smelled like early summer and lemonade. Someone had lit a citronella candle that doubled as decoration and necessity. Tarek stood near the back door, his shirt sleeves rolled, tie slightly crooked, heart pounding in a way no boardroom had ever managed. He wasn't surrounded by billionaires or reporters. Just a few close friends, ones who had stood by him before the titles, before the empire. And now, because of Kiara and Maria, he was building something that had nothing to do with dominance and everything to do with permanence. He caught sight of himself in the window reflection, a man he barely recognized. Lighter, rooted, full. Inside the house, Kiara stood in front of a full-length mirror, wearing a simple ivory dress that hugged her waist and fluttered at her knees. Her hair was pinned loosely, soft curls framing her face. She wore no veil, no heels, just her breath, and her hope. She had once imagined this day when she was younger, before Maria, before the leaving, before the life that taught her how to survive with half a heart. But this wasn't that dream. It was better, realer, built brick by brick on trust, on laughter, on pizza booth confessions, and 3 a.m. nightmares calmed by lullabies. Maria entered the room, a crown of baby's breath on her head and sparkles on her cheeks. She wore a soft pink dress with silver flats and held a basket of petals with dramatic pride. You look like a queen, Mommy, she whispered. Kiara crouched and kissed her daughter's forehead. You made me one. The ceremony began as the sun sank low, casting gold across the fence and filtering through the trees. The world felt slower here, more intentional. Maria walked down the aisle first, throwing petals like she was casting spells. She didn't rush. She twirled halfway, giggled, waved at Tarek, who had to blink a few times to keep it together. Then came Kiara, barefoot, carrying nothing but the weight of every step she'd taken to get here. Every disappointment, every lonely morning, every moment she had stood on her own. And now she was walking toward someone, not away. Tarek met her halfway. "I didn't write a speech," he said, clearing his throat. "I wrote 5, then tore them up." A ripple of laughter. He took her hands. "So I'm going to say the only thing I know matters." He turned slightly, so he could glance at Maria standing nearby, then back to Kiara. "I didn't find you. You found me. Both of you. I was on a bench in a park, hiding from the life I'd built. And then a little girl asked me to be her daddy, just for one day. And I said yes, not knowing it would be the most important yes of my life." Kiara's lips trembled, but she didn't cry. "Not yet. I say yes again now. To all of it. To dishes and early mornings. To spelling tests and bad French toast. To hard conversations and louder laughter. To every ordinary, beautiful, real day we get." Kiara squeezed his hands. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "You were supposed to be a favor. A pretend. A patch for a school day. And now you're the whole story." She smiled through the tears that finally escaped. "I'm not saying yes to a fairy tale. I'm saying yes to us. The messy, hard-earned kind of love that doesn't end when the music does." Maria clapped first, and everyone followed. The reception was nothing more than fairy lights strung across the yard, a playlist from Kiara's phone, and finger food on paper plates. Tarek spun Maria in a slow circle as she stood on his shoes, laughing into his chest. Kiara danced with bare feet on warm grass. No headlines, no camera crews, just the people who mattered. That night, after the last slice of cake had been eaten and the lights had dimmed, Kiara found Tarek in Maria's room. She was curled up in bed, already half asleep. Rory, her stuffed dinosaur, tucked beside her. Tarek was reading quietly, voice soft. Kiara leaned against the doorframe. "She asked me to read the wedding storybook," he said. "She wanted to see if it ended the way ours did." Kiara smiled. "And did it?" He looked at her. "Ours is better." She walked to him, curled against his side on the floor beside the bed. They sat there, holding each other, watching over the girl who brought them together. And in the stillness, in the quiet, there were no doubts. No waiting for someone to leave. Just the steady rhythm of a rewritten story. This time, one where everyone stayed. We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.